What's cracking, guys? Bruce Matson here, your host show of Metro Scout Fantasy Football, and we're still rolling with this prospect profile series. Today, we are going to be covering Drake London, wide receiver from USC, and he had an electric season last season, one of the most productive wide receivers in college football. He checks in at 6'5", 210 pounds. He was a four-star recruit coming out of high school. According to 247 Sports, he was ranked as the 35th wide receiver in his recruiting class. Going to his freshman year in 2019, he caught 39 balls for 567 yards and 5 touchdowns. Things improved immensely during sophomore season as we saw him finally break out, catching 33 passes for 502 yards and 3 touchdowns in 6 games. 2020, remember, was the COVID year, the shortened season, so he didn't get the opportunity to play in a full 12, 13 game slate that year. However, he still managed to own a 26.2% market share of USC's passing production. This is where we saw the rise in value for him in Devi. This is where we saw him start to get more recognition nationally, and a lot of people started to come on to Drake London during this time. Going into his 2021 season last year, his junior year, this is where he went off. This is where he went gangbusters, catching 88 balls for 1,084 yards and 7 touchdowns. Had a 32.7% market share of USC's passing production, 2.17 yards per team pass attempt, 3.52 yards per route run, and 5.2 yards after the catch per reception. When we talk about Drake London's tape, the one thing you're going to hear most about him is how great he is at contested catches. He boxes out defenders. He's strong at the catch point. He's able to read flight patterns and bring the ball down. He's got some ball skills. He's a former basketball player, so he knows how to use body control to create that little bit of separation. He's got a good catch radius as well. He's a solid route runner. That's something you do not hear brought up much with Drake London when they talk about him, but he's very solid running routes. He can sell his break, and for his size, for being 6'5", he's pretty fluid with the footwork. He's very smooth there. And then he's also very good at beating press coverage. He's very strong off the release. Weaknesses, there aren't many. He's not considered a separator. He doesn't separate by just breaking off routes. He's not the tap-toe magician like a Keenan Allen per se, or a Stephon Diggs, but he wins by getting downfield, boxing out defenders, rising up, climbing the ladder, and bringing down the ball. However, he can separate a little bit. He can break off those routes. It's just not all the time. He does not have the short area quickness, change of direction skills. Usually 6'5" guys don't have that, but for a 6'5" guy, for a guy his size, he moves really well. He has good change of direction skills for his size. He's just not going to be known as a guy who's going to win by creating separation from selling his routes, dropping them hips, using that footwork, using head movement. He's just not going to be known for that. However, when you take into account he's 6'5", bigger dude, and then you look at his footwork, how he moves, how he can glide a little bit, that's a lot better than most guys his size. So you gotta give him his props for that. That's what I like about him. Another thing you can probably nag on him about is he's not a burner. He's not a 4.3 guy. He may underwhelm you when he gets timed. However, he gets downfield. He makes plays happen. That size is a monster at the catch point, being able to read the ball while it's coming at him and all that. That's where he wins. Not all wide receivers can burn defensive backs. Not all wide receivers are considered a deep threat. So I'm not overly concerned, but it's something that you have to point out when you're being open and honest when you're talking about these players. For a comparable, Mike Evans has been brought up a lot, and they do have similar aspects in their game. Both big-bodied guys, both guys who get downfield, who have some athleticism, and also can bring the ball down. When we look at his style of play, how he's going to fit with his NFL team, very comparable to like a Mike Evans type of role if he's starting. And it looks like he will, because when you look at all the mock drafts, it looks like he's falling in the first round. It looks like he's going to get the opportunity to. So if that being said, he looks like he could fall into a Mike Evans-esque role where he's expected to get downfield, expected to box out around the goal line, and really win on contested catch scenarios. A good quarterback who is not scared to fit into a tight window, a good quarterback who wants to sling the ball downfield, who wants to deliver those air yards to London. London's going to be an air yards guy. That's what we like for fantasy. We like wide receivers who get those deep targets, and he's going to get those. Of course, he's not a deep threat burner, but they're going to use him a lot on those vertical routes because that's where he's going to excel at the most, especially with his size, ability to get downfield, ability to box out defenders. They're going to use that as a mismatch in coverage, and that's what he's going to deliver at the NFL level. So when we look at his prospect profile as a whole, how he plays the game, he looks like a boom bust kind of profile. Usually guys that play his way, they either go one way or the other, kind of like a Mike Evans, but you can also look at the J.J. Arcega-Whitesides, the Hakeem Butlers. The difference between him and the guys that busted, though, London's been way more electric. London's been way more polished. He's been way more productive. So I look for him to be more on the good side, but I don't know. Objectively, I don't know if that's just me being more hopeful right now, but really when I look at the profile, he has been more of an electric prospect, more athletic, and really been more productive overall, especially when you take into account what he did last year. If he didn't get injured last year, a lot of people have been talking about him more as the wide receiver one in his class. When you look at rankings, he's usually in the top 3. However, if he didn't get hurt this year and he continued the production that was just straight up gangbusters, he was just blowing up every single game, making highlight plays every single game, and he finished the year off strong, I think a lot of people would be putting him up there in that wide receiver one category because he has very productive finishing off his career. Unfortunately, that injury impacted him a little bit, but it's not going to impact his draft stock. He's going to be a first-round pick. I do not see him falling at all. I see him being a first-round selection. I feel very good about that, and I feel like he's in stone for that. I like Drake London. I'm going to be targeting him a lot in my rookie drafts this spring as the 3rd wide receiver off the board for me. I don't see him moving much up or down. He could drop the 4 if he goes to a bad spot, and another wide receiver kind of like goes to a juicy spot. But really, I like him. I'm going to be drafting him a lot, and I think there's nothing in his prospect profile that proves that we should be staying away from him. Let me know what you think about him in the comments. Let me know if there's any other players you want me to do a prospect profile on while I'm running on these hot and heavy. I'm trying to do as many as I can before we get to the draft, just doing some quick analysis on these guys. Of course, mock drafts are coming. Of course, rankings are coming. Of course, I'm going to be talking about these players left and right still. So a lot of this stuff I've already said, regurgitated a few other times in other videos. But here it's consolidated in one little video for Drake London. But I want to thank you for watching the show. Stick with me. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. Every subscription matters. Fuels me to keep putting out this content for you guys. It fuels me to keep going over these prospects, doing the research and everything else. Again, I want to thank you, and I'll catch you next time.